Do you ever have moments where you feel like the universe is aligning in a certain way to make things happen? Anybody relate to that experience? One of these moments for me was meeting my best and longest friend that I've ever had, way back when we were 5 years old. Both of us newer kids at a summer day camp in California. I remember waiting in line for our morning snack, a small bowl of maple and brown sugar oatmeal. And after grabbing my bowl and looking for a place to sit, I noticed a group of older kids, maybe third or fourth graders, all gathered around this young kid who I hadn't met yet. The older kids were quizzing him and testing him about whether he could tell the time looking at an analog clock right up there on the wall. And as he struggled to name the positions of the minute and hour hands of the clock on the wall, I felt my instincts moving me to sit there with him. It felt like an intuitive leading that I should sit there and help to buffer some of that tension in that moment. And sure enough, as I sat down with Brian, the older kids lost their interest in teasing him, and before too late, we got to talking and became fast friends. For that whole day, we hung out, read books, and played out on the playground. We were just inseparable. And before we knew it, the day had flown and the time finally came for our parents to come and pick us up after that day camp. This is where the conspiring universe part comes in. As it turns out, my dad and Brian's mom worked together already and had planned on introducing us to one another that very same day. Though, to their surprise, we had beaten them to it. And before too late, Brian had become a friend that I saw over the summers when school was out and we went back to summer camp. Over time, we became best friends, even through junior high and high school together. And if you went back and asked some of our teachers today, you could hear them from just them on just how much we went everywhere together. Our connection even continues to this day after we've parted ways for our school journeys and college paths, embarking on our careers and futures. Brian is a friend of my soul, an Anam Cara if I've ever met one. He has remained my friend and a strong supporter through many pivotal moments of my life and journey, through my experiences in school, my entry into Unitarian Universalism and discerning if I wanted to become a minister, all the way through my coming out as gay in my young adult years. Brian has been on the path with me through all of it. And today, we still have a video call every couple of weeks to have coffee, to talk about the news or politics of the day, and catch up on the different things going on in our lives. How many of you have had moments like these where you've just felt drawn to another person, where your paths converge and you discover a friend that you had never fully expected to meet? See if you can think of a person or a friend who has been on life's journey with you, who has known you for years, and whom you have a deep connection with. This morning on this Valentine's Day weekend, we're exploring soul friendships and both the depth and power that these connections can have in our lives. And as Andy shared with you in our reading this morning, an Anam Cara is not a light friendship. As the Irish priest and poet John O'Donoghue writes, Anam Cara originally referred to someone to whom you confessed, revealing the hidden intimacies of your life. With the Anam Cara, you could share your innermost self, your mind, and your heart. This friendship was an act of recognition and belonging. When you had an Anam Cara, your friendship cut across all convention, morality, and category. You were joined in an ancient and eternal way with the friend of your soul. Interestingly, a soul friendship of being an Anam Cara was actually a societal category. It was a relationship that was honored just as much as a relationship between godparents and children, as well as between married partners. In many cases, Anam Cara referred to a spiritual teacher or mentor that we have in our lives, and eventually it grew to encompass close and everyday friendships that bring with them this sense of great depth. It was socially understood to the point where you were almost expected to find a soul friend like this. The legendary Saint Bridget, the mother saint of Ireland, is even quoted to have said, "Anyone without an Anam Cara is like a body without a head." Though as commonly understood to the ancient Celts, this phenomenon of soul friendships are found across the world in all of its many different cultures. Many cultures mark and celebrate deep soul friendships beyond and outside the realms of marriage and romantic love. The relationship between the 13th century Muslim Sufi poet Rumi and his spiritual teacher and guide Tabriz was one such example of a soul friendship, of being two bodies with one soul. In Rumi's own words, as he reflects on a moment of closeness with Tabriz, he writes, "A moment of happiness, you and I sitting on the veranda, apparently two but one in soul, you and I. We feel the flowing water of life here, you and I, with the garden's beauty and the birds singing. The stars will be watching us, and we will show them what it is to be a thin crescent moon." Just think about that image of what it means to be a thin crescent moon, to be of one soul with two bodies, of both a light sliver over a dark surface, and yet one entire being together. Our soul friendships are profound beyond words, where even a metaphor about a moon and a crescent fails to encompass all of it. Though especially around times like Valentine's Day, I think our society tends to forget about the specialness of these connections. We lose sight of the importance of deep friendships, of the people in our lives with twin souls akin to our own. So much is lifted up about romantic love and pursuing the love of a soulmate or partner. And while finding a friend of your soul might still fit within finding a soulmate, we don't see these types of connections with friendships nearly as widely celebrated. We are bombarded with countless books, movies, songs, and podcasts dedicated to exploring romantic love and relationships. You could even take this celebration of love way back into history. For instance, I could get out a mandolin and sing you this ancient troubadour ballad all about this perfect and romantic love. Kidding, I don't actually play mandolin. Though in our contemporary times, I could also quote lines from the movie Love Actually about how romantic love is all around us and how we just need to open our eyes to it. But what about Anam Cara, our soul friendships? What about this deeply important love that almost underlies so much of what we know about love and our powerful connections to one another? Now, I want to go out on a limb here and say that a place like our congregation is a rare place in society. Anyone with me? Where else do you have a meeting place of so many different types of people, of different backgrounds and ages, of old and young, a place where we emphasize just how much each person is loved and cherished just as they are, without exception? There aren't many other places like this in society where you can feel the connective power found in being in relationship with so many other types of people. I think Anam Cara describes not only our deep friendships, it describes what we aspire to be as a community, soul friends who journey together and are with one another. John O'Donohue writes about this as well in sharing how the love between soul friends creates a special sort of space. In this love, he writes, you are understood as you are without mask or pretension. The superficial and functional lies and half-truths of social acquaintance fall away, you can be as you really are. Understanding nourishes belonging. When you feel really understood, you feel free to release yourself into the trust and shelter of another person's soul. You see, we here at UUCGT are soul friends too. We join with one another in community, traversing life's milestones and moments, holding one another's trials and joys. In a time of need, there is no doubt that you will find here hands willing to help and hearts willing to listen. Offerings of meals for moments where making dinner is the last thing on your mind. People willing to show up and be there for whatever is needed in that moment. And in more joyous moments, here you will find people ready to party and celebrate. Just think back to that party that we had out in the parking lot way back in September. I remember how precious it was for me as your minister to see just how much you loved being with one another, singing, laughing, and celebrating, some ukulele music and treats. We are not far off to think that our connections to you are also soul friendships. In fact, our very way of being as a congregation depends on these soul connections. In this congregation, we need to challenge ourselves to move beyond just our individual friendships and our friendships with the people that we already know. We need to move to a place with a more collective sense of Anam Cara, what it means to be travelers and companions for one another with a depth beyond just attending the same church. We dream to be a community that takes people as they are without mask or pretension, where you don't have to say all the right things or change any part of yourself in order to find a place at the table for you. We hope to be, as O'Donohue shares, a community where understanding nurtures belonging, a place where we feel truly held and understood, where we know that there will be a community of souls who are there for us and also love us just as we are. A concept like Anam Cara can help us to think about these connections with greater depth. We can understand our relationships to UUCGT as deep commitments that we've made to one another. In many ways, being an Anam Cara is the same as being in covenant. In a soul friendship, there is a mutuality of being there for one another and bearing witness to what the journey of life brings. There's this unstated agreement that you are unconditionally loved and accepted, though you also must love and accept your soul friend unconditionally in return. Now, this isn't to say that there won't be arguments or disagreements, moments of conflict or upset. The good news is that soul friendships, like being in covenant with one another, are strong enough to endure these challenges. In fact, these connections are strengthened by our willingness to work together through conflict and our refusal to give up on one another. I want you to think back to that friend or person that you first thought of, that person that might even be in this room. The person you were almost destined to meet who fits the description of being a friend of your soul. My friendship with Brian and my many other soul friends in my life have taught me so much about what it means to feel respected and cherished. These connections have taught me a lot about what it means to show up authentically for others and to both create and also find refuge in the soul of another. I believe our connections have a lot to teach us about what it means to be in real relationship with one another as a congregation and also our wider community. And so to close, dear ones, I want to challenge you to do something that might feel a bit scary. I promise I won't say boo. I won't do anything that makes you jump out of your seat. I want to challenge you to connect with someone here at UUCGT that you don't know that well yet. See if there's a person you've seen in Zoom meetings or here in the sanctuary that you haven't yet had the chance to connect with or meet. And this is the scarier part. I challenge you to now speak and invite someone who doesn't yet know about us in our wider community so that they can know about who we are here at UUCGT and know more about what we value. Yes, the pandemic and our virtual ways of gathering have made some of our connections a bit more challenging and inventive. Though as a community, we are tasked with finding ways to reach out and connect with one another, even despite these difficulties. If you are newer to our community, or if you are still looking for more ways to be connected, see about doing something really brave like joining a new group or team here at UUCGT. For example, just to name a couple, the Congregational Care Team, the Social Justice Action, and the Membership Team are always just some of the groups who are excited to always welcome new friends into their midst. There is so much more here at UUCGT, so many more hearts and spirits that are ready to travel life's journey with you. In the end, may you find a friend of the soul here in this gathering of soul friends. May you feel inspired to connect with others in our community in the same ways that you found love and acceptance and belonging here. And may you go out with that love, acceptance, and belonging and invite somebody else into our midst that we can welcome as a friend. And above all, may you remember your Anam Caras, those who remind you of who you are and who love you just as you are. May we be soul friends for one another as we endeavor to live out Unitarian Universalism's promise that you, yes you, are loved beyond belief. May it be so, and amen.